show you're about to hear is meant for mature audiences.
Who cares?
If you're looking to learn something or grow as a human being,
You should probably keep searching. Snowflake. Damn.
Oh, that's fucked up.
this is as unfiltered, raw, and real it's gonna get when it comes to talking about anything and everything. With your hosts, James, Colin, and Jess. This is Simply Uncensored.
Ask not what the country can do for you. Oh, fuck. I already fucked that up. Oh, man.
Bloopers.
That's staying in.
I'll put that at the end. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. JFK's inauguration speech. Today we are here with episode 20. We are now hitting the 20s.
Damn. In the tweens.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah, boys! Look at that. We're making waves. Episode 20. So we're talking about JFK today. We're gonna get into conspiracies, his entire fucking life, just everything about JFK. And I think this is gonna be a really fucking good episode, boys. So what's up?
How's everybody doing? I'm a little nervous and excited at the same time because James and Colin both put in a lot of man hours that I don't think I had the time to do because they watched a lot of documentaries. They got a lot of work in.
Well, I didn't watch a lot of James is the one who watched the documentaries. I just kind of browsed some websites. Most of the research here was done by James, but anyways, get past that point. We got a good episode for you today.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, going over a lot. It's history, but it's kind of cool.
What's a good part of history? It's a very interesting part of history.
Oh, I don't know if it's a good part of history.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, like, what the fuck? You know what I'm talking about.
President getting killed is a good part of
Yeah, I
history.
know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean,
Apparently
maybe.
to some people.
To Oswald. Or was it?
Yeah.
So what are you
don't know.
guys' thoughts
He-
on
yeah.
JFK, like, as a president? I mean, you obviously done some kind of research, so you know what he did during his presidency. What do you guys think?
Well, to be honest, before I did some research on JFK, I honestly thought he was Republican. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, because I always knew he was like super religious and everything, but I didn't think he could be a Democrat, and he turned out to be. So it kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, Colin found that out earlier today while we were talking about all this shit.
No.
He called him a Republican. I'm like, no, he's a Democrat.
Oh,
Colin's views are suddenly swayed.
yeah.
Oh, I now don't like JFK.
No, but yeah, once I learned that, it's kind of weird because I always thought that he was in a red city, but and it turns out even more fucked up. Like the country map, I looked at it from the 1960 election. Texas voted Democrat, so that kind of threw me off.
And California
I was,
voted
yeah,
Republican.
Republican. Yeah,
Like,
it was weird. It's just weird looking at because that never happens. You never see that
It's a
today.
weird time.
I mean, he was going against Nixon, so let's be real.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
I mean, we know
Could've
now
put
Nixon
anyone up
was
against
fucking
Nixon.
terrible, but
We made it through it.
Yep.
now when anybody thinks of Nixon, do you think of like Nixon from Futurama?
I
'Cause
didn't
I
watch
do.
much Futurama. I watched a little bit. I like Bender.
Neither did I, but
I don't know. Every time I say Nixon, I think of fucking Futurama.
no, I didn't watch Futurama, but I think I played some Futurama games and he was in it.
Futurama.
I don't know who Nixon from Futurama is, but
Sounds like a nice guy.
sounds like a swell guy.
All right, boys. So let's start talking about JFK. You ready for a little story? I know
Yes, sir.
last episode we did a little long story, so I'm gonna keep it short this time, so we can definitely get into some talking here.
We're listening, James. The audience is all yours.
Bum bum bum. All right, story time. Sit down with your book. Actually, I have the book. I take that back. Sit down with your juice box, your juice pouch, crisscross applesauce,
lunch-
and
Lunchables
listen to
out.
this goddamn story, bitch. Yeah, Lunchables too. It's story time.
Get your chicken tendies. Have your mom take the pizza out of the oven for you. All right.
All right, so I'm gonna
Continue,
try to not
James.
use my notes on this shit. So, all right, so JFK. little boy, he had a very big family. His dad, Joe, Joe Kennedy, was very religious, very like what's the word I'm looking for? Fucking okay. Put it this way: JFK and his
Strict.
brothers couldn't do anything. If they did anything wrong, their dad fucking hated them. What's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here, boys.
Strict.
Strict. Thank you. Wow. Starting this off on a great fucking note.
Wow.
So Joe was very fucking strict. So they grew up in a family where everything was a competition between brothers and sisters. Everyone had to be better than one another. So growing up, he was, known to be you have to be the best. If you are not the best, you're going to be disapproved by daddy. Daddy issues. JFK had some daddy issues.
That's not nice.
So he grew up having to be the best in everything. And whatever he did, his brother Joe had to do better. So JFK, from little kid, always had fucking medical issues. Like really, really bad medical issues that a lot of people actually don't know about. Like through his entire presidency, he had Addison's. He was actually diagnosed with Addison's at like age 30. But even as a child,
Addison's
is
what, back disease?
yeah, it's back. Like he had to walk with a cane all the time. And he was always like hopped up on fucking drugs. It was crazy. But even as a kid, he always was really fucking skinny. Just always had medical issues. Went through a bunch of different diseases. Got put in the hospital a couple of different times. But I mean that'll play a big part in his actual presidency. As a kid, it really didn't matter. So growing up, his brothers and sisters, whatnot. His father was actually an ambassador over in Europe during the Nazi era.
Ooh.
So with all this money that they had for him being an ambassador, John, everyone called him Jack. Jack got to spend his summers in Europe, learning about the Nazis and helping his father with political shit. And he basically got to see firsthand the Nazis taking over fucking Germany and invading fucking Poland and Britain and all these fucking countries. We're not going to get into the Nazi shit. But he was there firsthand. And this is actually what made him want to go into the war and wanted to fight against the Nazis. But his dad...
You're talking about John Kennedy.
John, yeah. John.
Dad.
People called him Jack. A lot of people call him Jack. It's just a...
Dad or JFK?
JFK. A nickname for John back then was Jack.
What? John had a brother named Jack Kennedy, though.
Yeah, but people also called John Jack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
a
kind of
fucking
weird.
Family.
It is. It is a very weird family.
Yeah.
So, at this time, JFK is pretty older. He went to Harvard. He graduated from Harvard. Harvard was still spending time over in Europe with his dad, and he actually wrote a book. It was a class project for Harvard, like his final project that he had to do, and they turned it into a book. But basically, it was how Britain's lack of army preparation wasn't going to stop Hitler, and that America needed to be involved. But Joe, JFK's dad, didn't want America to be involved. He wanted. He kept whispering, and I think it was Eisenhower at the time, whispering in his ear not to get involved with the Nazis. But JFK saw that, well, okay, Britain's obviously not going to do anything. We need to get involved. So it was at.
And this was when JFK was what? Was he?
He was white.
He was graduating Harvard.
Graduating Harvard. Okay.
You say when he was white?
Yeah.
He's always white. So this one, yeah, he was graduating Harvard. So after he graduated Harvard and wrote this book, he ended up enlisting to the Navy. And fun fact is he actually couldn't get in the Navy because of all his medical issues. So his dad had to pay for a special exam to let him into the Navy.
Seriously.
Well, I mean, growing up, and watching the Nazis fucking take over all of Europe, he wants to do something about it.
True.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, this was a different time, too, when people were actually, wanting to go fight for the country. Not nowadays where no one fucking wants to go and fight.
Well, you're not fighting. You're not fighting for your country anymore. You're fighting for Israel. Oh,
different fucking shit.
yeah. Different topic for a different day.
So, John joins the Navy. His brother Joe joins the Air Force. John went to go fight the Japanese after Pearl Harbor and was stationed in the South Pacific as a captain of one of the PT boats. He was actually captain of PT 109. So during the war, PT 109, they described it as a cold night, dark, middle of the night, and all of a sudden they're just sitting there fucking around off the coast, and a Japanese destroyer comes up and just rails his fucking PD boat. Kills two of his men, just cuts this fucking bitch in half.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, the PT boat's not very big.
Yeah, so this Japanese destroyer, fucking big-ass fucking ship, just cuts this little fucking thing in half.
Damn.
So him and his crew are sitting there, like, in the middle of the fucking ocean, just floating on just scraps of his PT boat until finally, like, I think it was either one day, I think it was one day where they finally got to shore. So they were floating out there for quite a while.
Damn.
After this happens, it really fucked John up. Like, his back, like, really got fucked up and got sent back stateside for medical reasons, obviously. And his back was actually so fucked up that he had to get surgery. And then he got, he got an infection from the surgery and almost died again.
Oh, no.
This guy's almost died like 400 fucking times. It's ridiculous. His whole entire fucking family. Damn. Not only that, it was during this time where his brother Joe, because, you know, he came back as a war hero from his PT boat saving his crew. Joe had to outdo him, of course. Went back out flying, even though he had done enough flies to basically quit the Air Force and be done. Well, he wanted to do one more just to, you know, show up his brother, and ended up getting shot down and killed over the Pacific.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
JFK's brother wanted to show off and flew over the...
yeah, he wanted to be better than Jack.
Oh.
So, you know,
Wow.
their whole family is super competitive. One wants to be better than another at all fucking times.
And it got one of them killed, pretty
Yeah,
much.
so it got Joe killed because he wanted to outdo his war hero brother JFK.
Okay.
So Joe was the firstborn. So he was always seen as the one that was going to take over this political side that his dad had been into, you know, with being an ambassador. He was going to be a politician. Well, he died. So now that leaves JFK.
Oh, he died.
Yeah, well, he died.
Sorry.
He died. Sorry.
He died.
Sorry, Joe Jr.
He did.
So now
We're not making fun of you, Joe.
that now leaves JFK to be the one to fill the position of, you know, the political leader. So at this point in 1952, he was elected to the U.S. Senate with no experience whatsoever. His entire campaign got fucked. Oh no, he wasn't Senate. Sorry, he got elected in the Congress in 1946. Sorry. So 1946 in November, he got elected in the Congress. Now he got into this because his fucking dad just spent shitloads of fucking money. His dad actually made the joke. He goes, "With the money that I spent, I could have got a janitor into Congress."
Oh, no.
So
Poor JFK.
oh yeah, his dad was definitely a piece of shit.
That would have been so sad to hear.
Well, I mean, he's got to do better. So he gets into
Graduated
Congress.
from Harvard, Dad.
Well, he is from Harvard, yeah, but I mean, he fucking paid to get into Harvard, so it's just an expensive school.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, maybe.
Damn.
So
Anyways.
after Congress, his brother Jack Kennedy becomes his campaign manager. So this is 1952. So this is 46 to 52. That's 8 years. No, that's 6 years. Sorry, So 6 years.
46. Yep.
So 6 years later, after being in Congress, this is kind of a long time, but not really for Congress.
Not really. Yeah.
He decides to run for Senate with his brother Jack Kennedy backing him, and actually wins the Senate. It's by some fucking miracle. So this is 1952. And at this point, JFK now gets married to Jackie Kennedy, his wife, which was actually sitting next to him when he got shot. Spoiler alert.
Oh, we'll get to that later.
This is when he actually got back surgery. And then 8 years later after that, he went into the campaign against Nixon. At some point in there, he tried to be a VP too, but I don't remember when that was. He tried to run for the VP ticket and ended up losing. This is actually the first time he had lost like a political campaign. So his dad was pretty disappointed. But then, 1960, he decided to run against Nixon.
Yeah, honestly, the Democrats could have put up probably anyone, and he would have beaten Nixon.
Well, I don't think Nixon was that bad at this time. I mean, if he's running for president, he literally can't be that bad.
Yeah. He was still bad. He just had to go for re-election. What are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? And frankly, who gives a shit?
All right, so year is now 1960. JFK is starting to campaign against Nixon. He actually does one of the first televised debates. Now, JFK was like a playboy, fucking handsome. Everyone loved him. He was seen as like a celebrity in the eyes of fucking America. So he's used to, the camera and pictures being taken and him and his wife being all over magazines and whatnot. Nixon is not. Nixon has done like radio debates, but that's about it. So during these debates, people that watched it on television say that Kennedy just destroyed Nixon because Kennedy knew how to talk into the camera, knew how to relate with people over camera. Nixon did not. Nixon had no personability through the camera. But over radio, you don't need that. And people that listened to it over radio said that Nixon won all the debates. Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I have, I think it was my grandma, either my grandma or one of my aunts told me that they watched the debates on the television, and yes, that's exactly what they said. It's like Nixon was like sweating, he was like stuttering, and JFK was just cool, calm, collected, to the point,
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
So, back up a little bit here.
Let's back up.
The Democratic nominations. So when the Democratic nominations, because this is an important part, Lyndon B. Johnson was one of the Democratic nominees, and a couple other people, but they're not really important. And then JFK. So both these guys are going at it for the Democratic nominations. Well, JFK ended up winning. Well, now he needs, a VP. Lyndon B. Johnson's home state was Texas. So in order to win the presidency against Nixon, he knew he needed Johnson as his VP. Yeah, he needed Johnson for Texas. That was the only reason he needed Johnson, even though these two fucking hated each other. Lyndon B. Johnson actually, during the nominees and the campaigns, sent out a private investigator to dig up Jack's medical records to show that he was unfit and just not physically capable of running the country. And they actually dug up and found that he had Addison's. And Johnson threw that all over the air, but Kennedy denied it, and people just kind of forgot about it.
They did.
So even regardless, of Johnson being a complete fucking asshole, Kennedy still made him his VP because he needed him. That was a bad move. That was a bad move, Kennedy. Bad move. So that's pretty much Kennedy's life before the presidency.
And then he got elected.
Yeah, and then he got elected. So he doesn't get shot until 1963, 3 years later.
Yep. There's a Kennedy who still has political power even today.
Interesting.
A Kennedy. Yeah.
Oh, well, hold up. There's nothing wrong with Kennedys.
No, boo Kennedy.
All right. Hold up. Okay, so let's get into Kennedy's presidency. So enough about his fucking childhood. Let's get into his presidency because I don't think he was that bad of a fucking person.
And enough about these new stupid Kennedys.
Yeah, what the fuck.
Continue. Yeah, I know. Get him out of here. All right, James.
All right, Colin. So
Enough about him.
tell us a little bit about the Bay of Pigs, because when,
Oh shit.
basically when JFK took over from Eisenhower, the Bay of Pigs was already in motion from the CIA. So now you have Richard Bissell, which was the CIA agent in charge of the Bay of Pigs. So basically, JFK comes in and he's greeted with Richard Bissell, like, "Hey, we have this going down in Cuba. Here's what we have. Here's what we're about to do. We just needed your okay."
And the Bay of Pigs itself, didn't they try to false flag their way into an invasion or something like that? I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, they're going to invade and fucking take down Castro, Fidel Castro.
Yeah, that's right. Storm the beaches, something
Yeah,
like
so
that.
they stormed the beaches. But here's the thing. Somewhere in the fucking CIA or whatever, it got out. So Cuba knew that this was happening. But the CIA didn't know this. So this is
boy.
entire Bay of Pigs is a CIA operation, but was okayed by Kennedy because Richard Bissell was, the man in the ear saying, "Okay, I got this. Here's what we're going to do. Everything's fine, blah, blah, blah." He basically just took Richard Bissell's
Being a dick.
word for it and yeah, okay, you go ahead, do whatever you need to do. Well, it turned out to be a trap. So they sent down a bunch of, covert CIA employees down in the Bay of Pigs and
Agents, not employees.
whatever, agents. Same
CIA
same,
employees.
Same fucking difference. Basically sent them down into a fucking trap. Actually, no, they weren't. They were exiled. These were a bunch of exiled people. That's what it was. They weren't CIA. It was a bunch of exiles that they sent down to the Bay of Pigs to go overthrow Castro. Well, they were greeted with Cuban fucking law enforcement, of course, and were basically killed on the spot. And basically, Bissell begged Kennedy, and a bunch of people begged Kennedy to send down reinforcements to go help these people, but Kennedy wouldn't do it. He's like, "No, fuck this, Bissell, you're a fucking retard," and fires Bissell for basically fucking up the Bay of Pigs. Yeah. Oh yeah.
As he should be fired.
Well, yeah, he fucking made Kennedy look like a fucking idiot, like he has no idea what he's doing, which he doesn't know what he's doing. But he made, the government look bad. And then, yeah, so Bissell's probably kind of pissed. So JFK fires Bissell, which he should. After this, you have the mission to the moon. JFK's famous get a man to the moon.
The mission to the moon. Okay. Jesus, the mission to the moon. Okay, so one small step for man, one giant step for.
Well, we're not even to the point where they fucking get to the moon yet. Fucking talk about Sputnik and talk about.
Okay, Sputnik. So, okay. Let's get things into perspective right now. USA in this time period is having a race with Russia to get into space, ultimately to get onto the moon. And to be honest, sorry, not Russia. It's the Soviet Union. I see this is shot down over Russia. It's not it's Soviet Union.
Oh my
right?
god, who cares? It's the same fucking thing.
All right, so, frankly, the Soviet Union was destroying the United States in the space race. They got the first. They got the first satellite. They got the first. I know they got the first satellite. I'm gonna say these next two. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%,
Get the
but I'm
first
pretty
man
sure.
into space. That was Sputnik.
They got the first man into space, and they got the first man to orbit the moon. Okay, that's what they were beating us, and they were pretty far ahead of us. And so Kennedy, JFK, in order to rile up the nation, get them all, band together, said that, you know what, we're gonna do it. We're putting men on the moon, and we're gonna do it in a short amount of time. I don't remember the exact time frame he gave, but that's what he did. And so, over the next, no. According to the record, they flew up to the moon, and they did it without using any computers. Literally, they would be in the spaceship flying, and they would radio back down to Houston, and they'd be like, "Okay, we're coming up. We're 200,000 miles away. Are we good?" We'd go back, and then Houston would send them up another message, and then they'd say like, "Do a 30-second burn, heading this degree angle," and then they do it, and then I don't know. Somehow everything lined up perfectly, and they landed on the moon, and they came back. So.
Oh, we're not getting in a conspiracy of the moon landing here.
Yeah, not here. Different episode. Different episode. I don't know what I believe, but different episode. What else? Cuban Missile Crisis?
Okay. Before we get into Cuban Missile Crisis, we have Nikita Khrushchev, which is the leader of Soviet Union. Colin, Russia.
Yes, thank you. It's not Russia, it's Soviet Union.
So he's the leader of the Soviet Union, and he basically fucking hates Kennedy. He thinks he can walk all over Kennedy, because Kennedy's so young, he has no idea what he's doing, which is fucking true. But this is the point where nuclear war is right on the fucking brink. So we had just fucking bombed Japan, Hiroshima, with the first ever fucking nuke. So, this sets off this biggest fucking thing, the race where everyone wants fucking nukes. And of course, Soviet Union being the second biggest, I don't know, maybe first biggest, I don't know, fucking a huge fucking player. It's America and the Soviet Union, it's these big ass fucking countries. Of course, they see America has fucking nukes, well, they gotta get them too. So Kennedy's trying to de-escalate this. So they're starting to put nukes all over the fucking place, starting to build rockets, what now. When they send up Sputnik, America starts to realize hey, if they can send a rocket into space, who says they couldn't send a rocket with a nuke over to America? So they start freaking out and start going and having meetings with Nikita to try to de-escalate this and whatnot, but Nikita won't budge. He's like, no, fuck it. I'm going to keep doing it. Blah, blah, blah. So that's where the Cuban Missile Crisis comes in, where Nikita Khrushchev takes nuclear missiles, nuclear warheads, puts it into Cuba, right in our fucking backyard. At the same time, we put missiles over in Turkey, right in their fucking backyard. So both countries are sitting there with big-ass fucking nukes, ready to go, ready to fucking just
pointed right at each other.
Yeah, this is a time where everyone is feared for their lives. You think now that with North Korea we were scared about getting nuked. This is 10. Yeah, this is the real fucking deal. This is these are ready to fucking go. You got Nikita that just doesn't give a fuck. You got World War II that just happened. U.S. just fucking nuked Hiroshima. This is...
And Nagasaki.
Yeah, this is brink of fucking war. This is already wars going on, and here's nukes about to start flying around the entire fucking world.
Yes. Sounds like a fun time, to be honest, but...
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
No, you're dead.
So, Cuban missiles... Soviet Russian missiles in Cuba. Basically, they try to strike up a deal with Nikita saying hey, if you pull out your nukes from Cuba, we'll pull ours out of Turkey. Now, no one in the government wants to do this. Absolutely no one, except for Kennedy. Kennedy's the only one that doesn't want fucking war. is that this time one of the spy planes, the U.S. spy planes, got shot down over Russia. Now, America had this like pact. Basically, they said if well, no, it wasn't a treaty. It was a pact within the government that says if any plane was shot down over Russia, they would instantly retaliate. So as soon as this plane gets shot down, everyone's getting ready to fucking retaliate. They got people in destroyers fucking in the oceans already, getting ready to fucking just go full on brink war with Russia. Well, JFK goes, let's not. He's just like begging everyone, like, no,
Yeah.
like we are not going to war. There's got to be a better option. So, obviously, Russia's doing the same fucking thing, getting ready to fucking just start fucking. They got destroyers in the ocean coming towards America. They got fucking their hand on that big red button, ready to fucking push it and send these nukes flying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kennedy gets a hold of Nikita Khrushchev, and they sit down and I think they call each other or something like that. I don't remember. I don't remember the exact details. But basically, they come to agreement where Russia takes their nukes out of Cuba, and America takes their nukes out of Turkey. I'm not sure that America actually did take the nukes out of Turkey, but that's a whole
They
thing.
probably didn't.
Probably not.
Let's be honest. Yeah. Just put some like dead trees over them. Just no, we're good.
So, if you get anything out of JFK's presidency, at least he saved the fucking world from a nuclear goddamn holocaust.
Yeah. He did a few things. That was probably the biggest. Second, I mean, landing a man on the moon, that's hard. Um, he did a few things that are pretty good. I mean, one thing obviously being what you just said.
Well, yeah, I mean, besides not knowing what the fuck he does, like, he was taking, like, people would whisper in his ear and basically tell him what to do, and he would be like, okay, yeah, I'll listen to you, and then he ends up listening to the wrong people, i.e. the Bay of Pigs, where he listened to Richard Bissell and was completely fucking wrong. Also keep in mind that JFK, because of his back surgery and Addison's, he was hopped up on fucking painkillers and fucking all kinds of fucking drugs. So he was always drugged out throughout his entire fucking presidency, just on the fucking moon.
Nice.
So yeah, he was a special kind of fucking president.
Yeah. You got that right.
All right, last thing I want to talk about here with JFK and his presidency was segregation and racism, fucking white supremacists, blacks, fucking JFK, or not JFK, fucking Martin Luther King. This is the time where this is all fucking huge in America, where they're trying to integrate whites and blacks down in Alabama, and they gotta send the National Guard down to come and fucking fix this shit. It's like it's fucked. So I forgot where I was going.
Nice.
Segregation.
I forgot
National
where I
Guard.
was going with this. But you get what I'm saying.
Anyways, it's super divided. The country is super divided at this time period. As it is now, except for in a different way. Back then it was more racial. Now it's more political.
Still kind of racial now.
Yeah.
Not as
Not as
much.
bad though.
But yeah, no. So that's all going on too, which brings the theory of one of the theories that I had before I actually started doing research was that it could be a white supremacist because JFK was sending these marshals down to Alabama to kind of like break this shit up. Like, hey, you can't be doing this. You got to let the blacks into things. So he took a side, which he didn't want to do. So he took the side of, is integration the right word?
Integrity?
No, fucking like
I don't know.
whites
I don't know
and
what you
blacks mixing together.
Oh, desegregation.
Yeah.
Sure, desegregation. I thought it was whatever. So he took the side of desegregation, which he didn't want to make a point. He didn't want to get involved, but at this point he has to get involved. So this is 1963. This is right before he got shot. This is actually June of 1963, and then he was assassinated in November. So people
Damn.
were not happy with him in 1963 for a lot of fucking reasons.
I don't think 1963 was his best year.
Yeah.
No, definitely wasn't. It's probably his worst.
Yeah, I have a feeling about that one.
All right, so I am done talking
All
for
right.
a little bit. Colin and
All right.
Colin and Jess, take over the assassination. Let's hear about it.
Oh, is it time to get into the gory details?
Oh yeah.
Let's hear it, Colin.
Okay. So this is kind of rough. Let me tell you. This sources that are coming from this are. I'm going to reference the Zapruder film. This was a shot taken from the right side of the road, of where his motorcade drove through. It's pretty much like directly focused on him as he, well, we'll get into that, but anyways. All right. So yeah, this is all according to the Warren Commission and the FBI report as well. Anyways, so November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. The presidential motorcade approaches Dealey Plaza from the west. Or is it from the west? I don't exactly remember.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter.
Sorry. No, they approach Dealey Plaza coming from the north, heading south, okay? They turn right onto Houston, and they take a left onto Elm. Elm Street is where all this happened, boys. Okay. So, Elm Street. It's got some grass beside it and a huge grassy part in the middle. More on that in just a moment.
Kind of like a little island in between, the roads and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically like a giant island, just grass. There's no buildings or anything. So, anyways, at around 12:30, this is when the presidential motorcade was driving through there. All of a sudden, that's when shots rang out. Okay, and this happened when Kennedy was waving toward the crowds with his right arm upraised to the side of the limo. That's when the first shot entered his upper back. It penetrated his neck, slightly damaged his spinal cord,
Which was already damaged to begin with.
Yeah, so I mean, it's basically just adding insult to injury at this point. But anyways, no, it traveled through his lung and then exited through his throat, nearly center line. Apparently, coming from this, it actually nicked the left side of his tie knot that was on his neck. So that's pretty center line. Anyways, he raised his elbows in kind of like a what's it called, a reflex. He raised them up to his neck and was kind of just leaning there. And this is seen in frame 220. Although this is about when he gets shot. This is about when the first shot is, frame 220. But you can't see it exactly because it's behind a sign. Right when they come out from behind the sign, which is like 222 or something like that, you can clearly see he's got his elbows up. Oh, and a side note, if you watch the Zapruder film right now, no one knows what's going on. Literally, like me and James were talking about this earlier, like you can clearly see something is wrong with JFK at this part, and literally no one knows what's going on. Like,
Yeah,
Jackie Kennedy.
a lot of people claimed that it was.
Go ahead.
They thought it was fireworks too, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like they heard the two gunshots, but they thought it was like fireworks and shit, and no one was fazed by it. It was fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure probably the first one sounded. Maybe I guess you could get it mixed up with a firework, but after the second and the third shot, there's no way. People knew exactly what was happening. But anyways, okay. So back to the thing. Frame 220. At this point, yeah, no one knows what's going on. Jackie Kennedy has no idea. Around like I think it's like 2:40, she starts looking over at JFK, kind of getting up in his face and everything. And then frame 313 happens. Everything is still. If you're watching it, go frame by frame, which I was. Everything's still. Jackie Kennedy's leaned in. She's I guess probably asking him like, "What's going on? Are you okay?" When all of a sudden, 313, pretty much, if you Google the image, frame 313, you get JFK. Um, you get JFK's head with a bright red mist going everywhere. So that's the shot. That's the kill shot. Yeah, much debated kill shot happens at frame
And
313.
much debated.
Magic bullet.
Yeah,
Well, no, the magic bullet is that one from behind that fucking went through his neck
with the neck.
and then entered the senator in front of him. And a lot of people
okay,
said it
yeah,
was
yeah.
magic because a lot of people said that it hit him and then made like a weird fucking turn and then entered the senator. They're like it was called magic because a bullet can't fucking turn at a-
Change
Yeah,
directions,
change
yeah.
directions. Come to find out that it actually did go straight because the senator's seat was actually centered more to the car and then lower. It wasn't a real seat. It was like a regular seat. So it does line up, but a lot of people were thinking, okay, a regular fucking car, the seat's going to be the same. He's going to be sitting directly in front of JFK at the same level. It's not possible. Well, that's not true. The seat was actually towards the middle and lower than JFK's.
Yep.
And that's how the bullet went straight through JFK and into the senator.
Yep.
That's why it's called the magic bullet.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tell him,
magic
James.
bullet, yeah. Okay. I forgot to mention this. Okay, when he's putting his elbows up to his neck because obviously he just felt himself get shot. Normally, if that were to happen, he would have gone limp and fallen over. But like James said, he had a back problem which put him in a brace at the time. He was in a brace which didn't allow him to curl up or fall over or do anything. Basically, it left his head in the perfect position. He can't move it. Well, he can move his head, but he's not really moving. You know what I mean? And that's when this happens. And what ends up happening is, his head obviously explodes. The top, I think it was a third of the top of his skull just comes flying off, sending blood, fragments of his scalp, brain, and skull everywhere. They land in the car. They land on the road. They land on the front windshield of the cars behind him. They land in the sun visors. They land in the engine hood. And, it must have been a mess. And to think that if you're watching this, I'm laughing, but it's really not funny. If you're watching this Zapruder film, Mrs. Kennedy's head, her face is like a foot away at most.
See, I want to know why
from
she starts
when this happens.
crawling on the trunk of the car. That's what kind of intrigues me.
See, okay, in interviews, she doesn't even remember doing this.
Yeah, so I heard.
But what I have seen is a lot of people think that she was actually going back just in some sort of panic mode to grab a piece of his skull that got blown off. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, which is kind of strange. I mean, like your husband's head just got blown apart, and your first reaction is to go and grab the piece of skull. Like, for what reason? You think if you grab this piece of skull, you can fucking just put it back onto
back
his head
together.
and he'll be okay?
Maybe she wanted a souvenir.
I don't know. Or she, honestly, if you think about it, it probably was her just trying to get off of the car because there's bullets literally flying directly at her.
That's
but
what I was
then
kinda
again,
thinking,
why
too.
wouldn't you just get down? But I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's convertible. There's not
Anyways.
really much to hide. I mean, she could hide in her fucking
True.
husband's dead body, but that's probably not plausible. She was probably trying to get out of the fucking car. I mean, it was only moving 5 miles per hour, so she easily could have
Yeah.
hopped the fuck out of that car. What amazes me
No,
is that
but-
no one hopped out of the car after the first fucking shot, or the car didn't fucking just start racing off.
It did after the third shot. It did. Once the Secret Service guy jumped onto the back of it, it started hauling ass out of there. A
Yeah, it was.
few more notes on this.
Okay,
So, what?
now go ahead.
Okay. So, back to what I was talking about when I first started, the plaza. It's not a plaza. It's the Green Islands. Okay, not the grassy knoll, but the green space in between the roadways. There were people in there, and there was a good amount of people in there, which means, obviously, when a presidential motorcade is going by, you're looking at the president, and just to see that, oh my gosh, these people were obviously scarred for life, and that's just so brutal. I can't imagine it.
Oh yeah, imagine fucking someone just getting shot fucking 50 feet in front of you. Well, actually,
Yeah,
closer
not
than
even.
that.
Yeah,
Like right in front
And
of
it's
especially
the president.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like little kids there, like they're looking at they're waving at the president. All of a sudden, boom, 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 skirt. Now everyone's just going crazy. Everyone's screaming.
you. Yeah, no,
Oh,
that's fucking nuts.
That's insane.
It sucks.
Yeah, but anyways, after JFK got shot, he was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead.
He was dead before
wow,
then. I mean,
shocker.
obviously, he looked at his
Yeah.
goddamn face. Like, he was dead
No,
way before
yeah.
then.
Yeah, he was pretty much dead the instant that frame 13 happened. Maybe he lived for a couple more frames, which is like a fourth of a second, but that's it. Like you can,
I think lights out were pretty fast.
yeah. No, I don't want to get too graphic, but you can see things fall out of his head if you watch an enhanced version of the Zapruder film, which would indicate that he's not alive.